Greetings, fellows, and all prospective higher powers present here today, listening from the spiritual realm. Does that cover everybody? I think because of our last podcast, we're all experts on higher powers, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Or not. But we did have fun talking about higher powers. So if you're interested in that topic, listen to the last podcast that we recorded. If you're having trouble with food, if food is kicking your ass, especially if you're killing yourself with food, we were once there too. We suffered, we were baffled, and there's nothing wrong with you. You're just an average, ordinary, run-of-the-mill compulsive eater. And this podcast is for you. And we're glad that you're here and we want to help. I know we're recording a podcast, but you can actually reach out to us and talk to us. So you might be wondering right now, if you clicked a link, what the hell did I just click into? What is going on here? Well, you have been magically transported into a podcast of 3 compulsive eaters who are going to talk about their compulsive eating and hopefully help other people who are suffering from compulsive eating. We happen to be in a program called Overeaters Anonymous, although we don't represent Overeaters Anonymous. But we're just grateful that you're here and listening, and we welcome you to reach out to us. There will be information below the podcast with email addresses and links and things like that. My name is Carol. I'm a compulsive eater, and I'm here with Rebecca A.
Hiya, I'm Rebecca A from London, the UK, and I'm a compulsive overeater.
And our friend Paul G.
Hey, good day wherever you are. I'm Paul G, recovered compulsive overeater in the land of Disneyland in Orange County, Huntington Beach.
So sunny this time of year. So like we touched on, our last podcast was about higher powers, the God word, the G word. We talked about cats as higher powers. You may want to listen to that one if you're interested or struggling with a higher power. And we're just having fun, we're just talking and sharing our experience and what's going on with us. And this week we are going to talk about abstinence, which is another very private and controversial topic. Some sponsors won't even speak about food with their sponsees. Others will tell you exactly what to eat. But ultimately, you have to determine your own abstinence, and you're going to want to consult the help of a higher power on that one big time. The current definition of abstinence in OA, as is in this purple Dignity of Choice pamphlet, which you can get at their website, oa.org, is the action of refraining from compulsive eating and compulsive food behaviors while working towards or maintaining a healthy body weight. I have a lot of issues with this definition because according to this definition, I don't know how anyone can claim abstinence. I'm going to be honest, because I compulsively eat my abstinent meals. If you look up what a compulsion is, where did I write it down? It's an irresistible urge, especially one that is against one's conscious wishes, but it might be something that's not against your conscious wishes. It's an irresistible urge. So I kind of wish they said to refrain from compulsive overeating or something to that effect, because I often will finish a meal and go, whoa, where did it go? And I feel like I just ate that so compulsively, like the world vanished while I ate my compulsive dinner. And then I think, wow, I got to look at that. I got to look at how quickly I eat and how excited I get about a meal, even when it's pre-planned and I've emailed it to somebody. So there's a lot of groups in OA, even within our own 12-step group. There are some that say with your higher power, you can eat anything and you won't overeat it. That with your higher power's help, you can eat all foods in moderation. Some people consider sticking to a food plan to be their abstinence. There are others who believe that you need to figure out what your specific alcoholic foods or ingredients are and avoid those. And some people abstain from compulsive behaviors, eating behaviors like standing in front of the refrigerator and just eating out of containers, or grazing all day long, or being bulimic. Some people refrain from, puking or over-exercising or taking laxatives. Those are some of the behaviors that we engage in when we're compulsively overeating. Each and every compulsive eater needs to figure out what abstinence looks like for them. And again, this is just my opinion. I'm not I've only been around here about a year. I'm certainly no expert. There are people that have been in this program since the 60s when it started, and they would definitely be more of an expert than I am. So what we're aiming for here is just to, I guess, talk about what abstinence means to us. And what I'm really aiming for is to get rid of the things that keep me from my relationship with my higher power, so I can have peace and serenity, and whatever that looks like, whether it's compulsive eating or other compulsive behaviors. I'm always trying to find compulsive things that I tend to do and try to weed them out. There's people who follow the gray sheet, and those people don't usually eat sugar or flour unless it's fifth or less in the ingredients. And then there's other people in OA who will say, well, I don't know about you, but if I was an alcoholic, I wouldn't be able to say I don't eat alcohol, but if you put a little wine in my tomato sauce, that's okay. Like they don't do that, or make me a cocktail, but only put a thimbleful in it. It's like, that's not what alcoholics do. So some people really treat their alcoholic foods like alcoholics treat alcohol, and they just say, no, I don't touch, for example, sugar ever, never in any form, not even if it's like the 10th ingredient. Some people just can't do that. So that's why it's really important to get a higher power and to grow that relationship, because you're going to get a lot of information in any 12-step program about food or recovery, and you're going to want to have a power greater than you to help you navigate that. So let's start with Rebecca. Why don't you tell us what you had for breakfast? I'm just kidding.
Okay, so I heard a speaker when I first came in say that, their conduct nowadays, now that they're in working this program, they're living in these steps, is, what they did yesterday and what they ate yesterday. It could be published in a newspaper, and they wouldn't be ashamed or embarrassed. And I was like, whoa, that's transparency, because my food was very private and very secretive. And I would not tell you what I ate. I wouldn't tell anyone. I would be hiding it from my partner. I would barely, I didn't know the truth myself. I could barely face the truth of the amounts of food I was eating. And of course I was overeating because I was obese, and I was wearing it, even if I denied it in my head, the reality, I was living it. I wore it. You could see it in my eyes. I was in pain. Now my food is public domain. Yeah, I could share that with you. But yeah, abstinence is refraining from my compulsive eating and my behaviors. And it was coming into these rooms and hearing people share that I started to kind of recognize some of my own compulsive behaviors. It was interesting that you said, Carol, about eating your food really quickly, because I'm still having to work on that. I was advised everyone get individual advice from nutritionists, but to take about 20 minutes to eat my meal. And I was like, what? 20 minutes? More like about 3.
Oh my God, it would be amazing to not be the first person done at a table. I wish I am looking forward to the day when I am not the first person to finish my meal at any given table.
Yeah, and that is a work in progress for me, to kind of slow things down. But it was coming to these rooms and listening to people share that I realized how compulsive my eating was. And, I realized a lot of those behaviors. I didn't really understand the idea of exercise bulimia until I came into these rooms. I just thought that that's what exercise was. You ate too much because I'm powerless to eating too much. And then you went on really, really long walks, and then you tried to kind of manipulate exercising for pleasure. What's that all about? That's been a gift of this program, to rediscover just walking because it's nice to be outside, or just going on my bike because it makes me feel like a kid. And thank God that I'm able to do that more comfortably these days. Not because of some mad kind of calorie crunching thing, overcompensating and ruining my joints and putting lots of pressure on my body. But yeah, so I think coming into these rooms, I've been learning about this whole idea of abstinence, and that you don't abstain from food, because obviously I would be dead if I completely abstained from food. But working out what my trigger behaviors are and what my trigger foods are was really key when I first came into these rooms, for sure.
Great. Paul, if you make a snack for a toddler and you lick the knife, is that breaking your abstinence? You're an expert at this. You have a grandkid. No, you can just share on whatever you want. But these are the things we think about, right?
Only if the toddler sees me do it. That's the I had this thought when Rebecca was sharing. I thought, there's this new thing that I found out about in program, and it's really marvelous, but it's so hard, and it's called chewing. Like, oh my God, I'm supposed to chew my food. I used to love smoothies because I could basically inhale a smoothie and get a pound of spinach in 5 minutes flat, like that's nutrition. That's the way that I thought it was supposed to be. So, what I love about OA, and I've never had a sponsor tell me, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. They always looked to me for direction. And what I tell sponsees, it's up to you and your higher power. And oh, by the way, it's a good idea to bring a nutritionist into the mix. And as much as I despised nutritionists, I didn't think they knew anything. I didn't think they were current. I mean, they weren't even saying to use keto, or they weren't saying to do fasting. They were just had these old food pyramid things that people have been relying on for years that I didn't trust. So that came a point where I was willing to do that. I do have a food plan, but so, when I go back, the other thing about my abstinence is it's changed. When I walked in, I went back to the tried and true from when I was in recovery before of 301, 3 meals, nothing in between, 1 day at a time. And that was great, and then I didn't see any weight come off. I thought, what about that? I didn't see any change in my blood sugar. What about that? That wasn't enough to get me to change, but I just was thinking about it. And then I happened across this, it was like a program for diabetes control, because I have type 2 diabetes. And when I came in, my diabetes, my fasting blood sugar was between 2 to 300 or over 300. And for reference today, it's like, 120. So it's, it's a huge difference. But it morphed to be like 3 meals and 2 snacks, and that's what they recommended. And I followed that plan for a while. And oh, by the way, I did get some weight loss, and I saw changes in my skin, and things improved. And but from there, I started working with a sponsor and a nutritionist, and today it's 3 meals and a snack of a fruit and a fat. So the reason I share that is not to say that where I ended up is the best place, but that some flexibility of my abstinence over time, that I think it can be, it's to be expected. And finding out about foods that I thought I could eat like a gentleman in the beginning, but it was proven that I can't eat certain foods. And the other thing that I would say is, when I came in, I had a massive list of all the things that I committed to be abstinent from. And I shared it with my sponsor, and he said, that's really great. And he shared, what I do is I just try and keep it simple. And at the time, I looked at the ingredients and I thought, okay, sugar and flour kind of does it. But I always had this notion that I would really like to include certain type of flour, and I've talked about it with him, and he said, well, my suggestion is you don't, but if you do, then you just get to monitor it. So, I think about that because, in a sense, I just accepted someone else's trigger foods, binge foods. I had plenty of evidence that, I had issues with him, but I was a little too quick to jump into the pool on that one. So, so with that, I think, we'll see what else comes out of our story today.
Yeah, well, what you were saying, what you made me think of is, our friend Harlan, when he says other people's foods and other people's higher powers are none of my business, because as a compulsive eater, when I hear someone talk about something they can eat, I'm like, oh, I can eat that. And it's like, no, they just said they can eat that. It's totally different, because my mind is always trying to figure out how to game the system. How am I going to get around this? How can I somehow eat something that is extremely enjoyable and yet abstinent? And it talks about in the big book, like, when we're trying to enjoy and control our eating, which is, look, I've been around a year, I'm still a baby, but like, I still, I'm going to be honest, I still want to eat my binge foods and somehow be thin and not have to do all this. Like there are days when I feel great and like I wouldn't trade it for the world, but there are also times when, like I'm just tired. Like, how can I just eat my food and be skinny? Is there a way to do that? And I'd be lying if I said every day I'm just like peaceful and serene and like, oh, I'm so glad I'm on the spiritual path and food never calls to me. Well, I would be for sure a liar if I said that. Although there are days I feel like that. And then there's the people that talk about, the other note I wrote down was, the people that talk about taking the tiger out and petting it and walking it 3 times a day, which always makes me laugh, because like, I get that for compulsive eaters, food can be a deadly thing, but it's certainly, to me, it's not like walking a friggin' tiger or a grizzly bear 3 times a day. To me, that would be like if we asked you to bake a cake and hand pieces out to other people. That I might compare to walking a tiger 3 times a day. But like, when you're eating your abstinent foods and not eating your trigger foods, I don't consider it doesn't feel like that to me. What about you guys? Does all food feel dangerous like walking a tiger to you, or?
Yeah. So
it depends on the spiritual fitness, I guess. Like, if I'm feeling like vulnerable and kind of not that fit, then yeah, probably. If I'm keeping in fit spiritual condition, probably not, but at the same time, yeah, if I was handing out cakes all day, I'd have to be pretty spiritually fit.
Yeah.
I had a sponsor, the first time I was in program, is that he referred to his alcoholic foods as rat poison. So he says, why would I want to eat rat poison? I'm not going to eat rat poison. So, it's like we do whatever it takes. And my wife, within, a few months into the program, she said, well, you mean you're never going to have pizza again? I said, well, I'm not going to have it today. Oh, okay. So but really, so you're never going to have pizza again? I said, well, I'm not going to have it today. And she stopped asking,
Don't worry, you can still have it, honey.
Because, for her, that's a reward. You want to treat yourself, right? Well, treating myself with rat poison is going to kill me. So, but the strange mental blank spot forgets all that when my mind thinks that, that's going to be a good idea. And yeah, I can relate. I talked to my sponsor this morning about, when I finish my meal, it's like, for some reason, I still want to eat more. And he said, well, change up your program, take a look at your 10th and 11th steps. And, it's kind of a sign for me that I can look at things a little bit differently. But I think, like Carol, it comes and goes. And I don't know that I'm ever going to know the exact reason why. Sometimes I think about it more. But, today I can order pizza for the family and send it home with someone else. And I'm not, obsessing about that geometric puzzle that comes in a square box, is round and is made of triangles. That's not the geometric puzzle that I want to deal with today.
Absolutely. And
And I ate all my pizza. I think I ate a lifetime of pizza.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've abused my right to have pizza now. I've had enough. And you know what? It was never enough. It was never enough. But like
Yeah.
now, I was thinking it's so difficult when you first come in, but yet so easy to figure out the things that are triggering you. But the thing that makes it difficult is the dishonesty and the fact that, yeah, like I've got it open here. The sensation is so elusive that while we admit it's injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. So even though it was kind of obvious what was triggering me, to get honest with that and be like, oh, this is actually maybe not safe for me. It's really hard. It's really hard to do that when we first come in.
What about the people that say, I don't have any trigger foods. I have no trigger foods. It's all because, for a lot of us, abstinence involves a food or ingredient, right? I mean, for most of us, I would say. What about the people that say it is not any one specific food? It's all food. And I don't have a trigger food. Have you guys had sponsees say that? I think, Rebecca, you were saying you've had somebody say that to you, right?
Yeah. And like, for me, that's a tricky one because that wasn't my experience. Like when I whittled it down, I wasn't triggered by like celery or like sprouts on their own.
Yeah, that's a good question. If it's not any specific ingredient, then are you literally binging on raw spinach out of a giant package, or do you tend to binge when you do binge on cookies and chips and things? Like if it's not a food, then
but maybe some people's allergy has just progressed that way. Like, but for me, experience, it hadn't progressed that way. So I was able to kind of differentiate. But the thing that I needed the most was to be brutally honest with myself. But the funny thing is, the more you work the steps, the more easily that brutal honesty can come, because I'm in the practice of every day being honest and being challenged, and people calling my bullshit and me kind of taking it a little bit better. It still stings, but like, I take it a little bit better. And maybe when we come in, that's the first time that somebody's calling BS, and saying, well, what if you didn't have this thing? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Paul?
Yeah, that's it's a tough one. And where I go with that is that I have to, one, as I've said on this podcast before, I make a terrible God. And terrible in that I'm ineffective, I'm inconsistent. I think I have all the answers and I clearly don't. Or I have all the answers for you, but they don't apply to me. So, when I start to think that I know the right answer for someone, especially when it comes to their abstinence, I just need to turn it over to my higher power. I know that they have a higher power, even if they don't. I know that they exist, and it's there for everyone. And I just trust that as we work the steps, they'll see what they see and they'll experience what they experience. And at some point in the future, maybe they'll see it. Maybe they'll see it's just volume. I've had people say before, well, it's really just volume that I have a problem with, and it could be that just the structure of 3 meals, 3 moderate meals with nothing in between works for them. So my goal when I come up against that is to turn it over to my higher power, their higher power, and just get into working the steps because that's where I see the miracles happen.
What about the saying, abstinence is the most important thing in my life, no matter what?
Yeah.
You guys, how do you feel when you hear that? I have a lot of feelings when I hear that. statement.
I look at my abstinence as it's part of the prescription for living my life, for this design for living. And I'd like to have a life where I'm effective, where I'm effective in what I'm doing, my relationships with people. But I don't believe that abstinence is the most important thing. My connection with my higher power, I believe, for me, it was clearly the thing that I wanted most. Yeah, I wanted to lose the weight. Yeah, I wanted to be sane around food. I didn't even have the concept of what neutrality around my binge foods were when I came to program. I just thought, okay, you're just going to have to white knuckle it and move on. But it did change, and for me, what changed was that I did get that relationship with a higher power, and now it doesn't seem like it's anywhere near as difficult as when I came into program. I'm still a compulsive overeater, but that's just what's so what? So I get to work the program. That's what.
Mm-hmm. Rebecca, how do you feel about that statement? You've heard it.
Yeah,
We've all heard it.
We've all heard it. Yeah, absolutely. Abstinence is important, but the most important relationship I have is that with my higher power, and like Paul said, I was hungry for a relationship, a spiritual life. I was hungry for a relationship with a higher power. And, this is just how the twist of the mind works. If I relapse, I will relapse without being triggered by my allergy. I do it without having that food. I do it abstinently, and then I relapse. That's a spiritual malady. It's a spiritual malady that makes me go back, even when, the food isn't necessarily in my system. So yeah, abstinence is really important. But even with the food down, I will eat again, unless I find a solution. And today my solution is that relationship with higher power, with power. So yeah, it's that relationship that is the most important thing. And yeah, then abstinence, but I definitely say it's that way round. That being said, as we've discussed on different episodes, a higher power of your understanding, that could be anything, and it works if you're an atheist, if you're agnostic, if you call it a deity or whatever. Maybe that's where there's been some kind of differences of opinions. I don't know.
Sure, yeah. And then I almost feel like it's a catch-22, because when I hear people make that statement, I go, no, it's not. It's higher power is most important. And then my mind goes, yeah, but how are you going to have a relationship with a higher power if you're in the food? Yeah, but isn't God stronger than cupcakes? Yeah, he's stronger than cupcakes, but you're not stronger than cupcake. So I I've got multiple voices in my head that get into whole debates about it. But the great thing is that I'm here and I'm alive and I'm debating it, right? At least I'm not just, knee deep in the food, because I used to just eat all day. I just ate all day, honestly, all day. So there was no time for that conversation to have, because I was so busy lifting a fork into my mouth, or just eating with my hands like a friggin' animal, like a monster, just pouring the cereal into my mouth, pouring the chips out of the bag into my house, and then throwing up so I could have room to eat more. And just the waste of money and time and effort, that could be spent doing other things and helping people, which is what we all get to do in program, which is so much more fun. And that's the thing, is that what we do in a 12-step program is we go for getting the effect that we used to get from our compulsion. In this program, it's food, and we use the steps and helping other people, and it gives us the same, if not better, I guess I would say better, because it's a peaceful, calm high, rather than a manic, compulsive, how do I get more of this in me now? What I mean? When I'm working with a sponsee, or someone is crying in a meeting and they just can't stop eating, and you get to talk to them, like that feels so much better than all the cupcakes and all the chips. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I was in the food. And yet at the same time, if one day I were to slip, I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to like turn to my, hopefully, right? I'm not in the future right now, but the point for me would be, the failure would be to leave program and not stick around, to not come back and talk. You know, the big book says when people drink, we talk to them, we help them figure out, you know, why did they drink again? And to just, and even if you can't figure it out, who cares? Just put it down and get back into the program and working it, because that's really, at least for me, I feel so much, just so much better and more peaceful. And at least I'm of use. Like before I was just of no use to anybody, right? I mean, sure, I did all my stuff around the house, took care of my boyfriend, took care of things around here, but I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It didn't feel like I was really of you, I guess, to myself. I don't know how to describe it.
So,
Absolutely.
Carol, how did you stop that? I mean,
Well, I started going to meetings first off, and then I sat in the room listening to people talk until I was like, well, damn it, I feel like I have to do this now. And then I started actually calling people, and I was like, well, damn it, now they know my name, and now they're speaking to me and they know my name, and oh, damn it, now I'm sucked into this cult. And then I heard people saying, you got to be of service. So then I would reach out. That's how I met Rebecca. I was like, God damn it. I mean, how can I help with this meeting you're running, Rebecca? And she was like, oh, great. We could use some help. And now everyone in the room knows my name, not just a couple people. And, you know, and then I was like, well, shoot, I think I got to work these steps and get a sponsor. And like, honestly, I really think it was just God guiding me where to go, because, you know, early on, I knew, I was like, well, God, I'm here. Just help me. Like, I'll do anything to just get out of this rut. Like, it's literally like being in a giant monster truck stuck in the mud, and you're just, wheels are spinning and mud's flipping out, and you're just like going nowhere. And like the minute I made a phone call, oh, I started moving forward. You know, the minute I took a service position, oh, I'm getting out of the mud. My monster truck's moving forward a little bit now. Ooh, I'm working the steps. Now we're really moving forward. Wow, we're getting way out of the mud. We're way up on a mountain now. We're taking the monster truck over these rocks and boulders now. And so I don't know. I mean, that honestly, like, just keep, I know why people say keep coming back. It's not like keep coming back while you're eating and staying in the food. It's like keep coming back and listen to that little voice in the back of your head that is saying to you, raise your hand and share. Call somebody. See that lady with the number next to her name in the Zoom? Call her. You really liked what she said. Just call her and say, hey, I feel stupid calling you, but I'm calling you. Like, it doesn't matter what you say. So, you know, it didn't all happen at once.
so how about the craving? You know, I have people ask me, well, how do I stop putting that food down, right? Like, I get these detox feelings. How am I ever going to get through those detox feelings?
Absolutely.
Are you asking? I don't know.
I'm asking.
Yeah, the truth is, it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful at the beginning, you know, but like what Carol was describing is using those tools to help you at the beginning, showing up to the meeting. And, you know, showing up to a meeting is like a kind of act of faith, because you wouldn't have shown up if this is 100% not going to work. There's probably, even if there's like a 0.5% that you think it's going to work, that made you log into the meeting. So you go to the meetings and you call people up and you say, oh, I'm suffering. I've got headaches because I'm off the food. And you use the fellowship to help you right at the beginning. And then hopefully you start working the steps, and then you'll get the proper relief. But at the beginning, it is painful, but you've got to kind of, I don't know, for me, I had to kind of hedge my bets. It was painful being in the food. It's painful when you go off it. You know,
yeah.
It's pain either way.
I felt like a drug addict.
Yeah, you know, like coming off like heavy drugs, you know. I was speaking to someone the other day, and they were saying that like there's a difference between pain, and there's a difference between suffering. Pain and suffering. One helps you grow, one's just awful. And I think the coming off those craving feelings is maybe the pain that helps you to grow, you know?
Yeah. And I've heard pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. I don't know if you've heard those phrases, like
Right.
suffering
That's
is
it.
something
That's
we,
it.
yeah. And I'll tell you, not just headaches, it ain't pretty. I had constipation, diarrhea. I've never been constipated in my life. Like when I put down sugar and flour, I was so constipated, I gave myself a hemorrhoid, which I've never had in my life. And obviously I'm not shy about talking about this stuff publicly, but it was like a nightmare. I would sit on the toilet feeling like I had to go to the bathroom and nothing coming out. And I was exhausted, like, and I was a maniac. I would feel like really high energy and then like so lethargic, like I couldn't get out of bed. And like, it would just, it was all over the place because I was clearly fueled by sugar and flour. Like that's all I ate. Like I almost never ate a vegetable. And it really isn't pretty. Like people say, how do you put the food down? Well, you literally have to fight. Like I would walk to the refrigerator like 10 times during the course of the night and then shut the door and walk away. Like, no, what are you doing? You're so close to shoving something in your mouth. Don't do it. Don't do it. So it's not easy. People, you see people in meetings, and I know sometimes you might as a newcomer think, oh, well, it was easy. No, it wasn't easy. It was not easy. It was like almost impossible. Like putting my shoes on and going for a walk rather than staring at the refrigerator. Like I'm going to go to the mall. Honey, do you need anything? I'm going to go shop. Like just getting out. And then after, but it passes, like after a week or two of that, then it's really not that hard not to eat it. But it's a miserable like week or two or 3. I found mine to be about 3 weeks personally. Well, let's wrap things up because we went longer than usual today, but that's okay. So in closing, I want to thank Rebecca and Paul for being here because it would be really boring to listen to me just talking for an hour. And and if you want to visit our website, it's 164forever.com. And we have 164forever@gmail.com if you want to send us an email. We are on Podbean, and we also upload the podcasts to YouTube. And we're going to make sure all that information is in the description below our podcast. And next podcast, we are going to talk about two-way prayer. I don't know. I thought about two-way prayer. Does that sound exciting? Maybe we'll each practice some two-way prayer and put it up on the website this week, 164forever.com, so you can see some samples of it. Anything else you guys want to add?
Yeah, keep coming back and give us feedback. What do you want to hear? You know, what's missing in that you're not hearing in meetings that you really want to hear, or you're hearing in meetings that you want to hear more of?
Yeah, we would love that. And we have a WhatsApp group. Information will be below, but don't be afraid to send us an email with a question or a topic or any kind of helpful advice you have for us. We are just I don't know, we're just doing it. We're just here and trying to recover and trying to get better and trying to help other people. So thanks so much for tuning in, and come back. Hopefully next week we should be here, but we will be back soon with another podcast. So thank you.